super excited about this conversation. Two things. One, Gusto's the rare startup where I sort of have a rooting interest in that we are a small business, and every time Gusto solves a problem, I am relieved that you get to take it off my plate. The second thing is it's funny to be hanging out with you with shoes on. You know,
Yes.
do you guys still have you gotten rid of your no shoes policy, or are you still?
I feel like I have to give context to people here. So excited to be here. This is a fun space for me because we had a Gusto holiday party here in 2015. But our three first offices were only a block away, and we were raised by our parents to take our shoes off at home. So for many years, our offices were shoes off, walking around in slippers, socks. We'd pass them out to folks. And then when the pandemic started, obviously people can do whatever they want at their home. Today, it's more of an optional policy, but I do describe it as a tradition that felt right for Gusto at the time.
In some ways it's like you've become this sort of grown-up company. Can you give, obviously payroll is at the heart of it, but talk through just briefly what the pieces of Gusto's businesses are today in terms of the focus and where you're really strong.
So something really important to know about Gusto is we obsess over small business. So if we have any customers here, we're honored to serve you. And just know that there are more dentist offices in the US than tech startups. And so we really focus on mainstream small business. Of the 6 million-ish employers in America, 2/3 are less than 5 employees. And so with that customer focus, payroll is our first product. I always like to say if you don't pay someone, they quit. So it's a pretty non-optional product. So we're really happy we started there. But kind of broadening through the back office would be the way to describe it. We really obsess over customer pull versus company push. But benefits is a big investment area for us. There's many, many types of benefits. Something I know we're excited to get into more. We have a pretty broad product group inside Gusto called Gusto Money that's focused on things related to cash flow management. For a lot of our customers, their biggest expense is payroll, paying their team. And one of the biggest points of stress is when AP, AR don't line up and they don't have the money in their bank account at the right moment to fund payroll. So we launched bill payment not too long ago. Actually, next Wednesday, we're going live with invoicing. So you'll see us do a lot more product investments, more in that B2B fintech part. But again, really, really focused on small business.
And overall business sort of somewhere between 500 million and $1 billion in revenue?
You could describe it that way. We serve over 400,000 companies. One fun way, we always ground it in customer. We're in the range of 8-9% now of all employers in America. And with the business model, that leads to good revenue. We've been free cash flow positive for many years. We reinvest that money back into building new product to solve more pain for our customer.
And I mean, you're an important sort of partner to other fintech companies. I think the Guideline CEO was here at one point. What do you see in terms of like the partnership strategy for Gusto?
Yeah, so a big part of our approach we're here to build a multi-decade company. We're still early in the journey, even though it's over 10 years. And that to me is a factual statement, right? We're only at about 8-9% of employers. You still have 30% of companies in the US doing even things like payroll by hand on pen and paper. So with the obsession on small business, a lot of what we're doing is replacing manual process. But there's just a lot of other pain points we want to help with. And if we're going to get there, it's not going to be entirely through first-party products. So we've had a playbook, which we will continue to use, of choosing product by product. Are we going to build? Are we going to partner? 401k is a good example where we've partnered historically. And then there's also, obviously, acquisition. We've done that a few times. We'll do that more going forward for where we deem something that was third-party becoming first-party. But we're not going to build it all ourselves, and we're excited to partner where it makes sense.
Has artificial intelligence changed the pace of product development? I mean, you're an interesting case in that on the one end, it's sort of the, Klarna's the world where they're like, well, we'll build everything internally. Like, payroll could be imagined that way. On the other hand, it can accelerate your growth. Like, how are you seeing sort of artificial intelligence, the ability to build faster, impacting Gusto today?
I'm surprised it took this long to get to AI as a topic. There's so many threads. I think a lot of folks here are technologists. I'll have to just choose, like on productivity and how we build. We have 1,000-person plus R&D team. I don't think we're that different than most software companies in that it's obviously driving pretty meaningful shift in how we build, the iteration speed. I think we're going to talk later about there's the service as a software, software as a service. Everyone gets SaaS. A lot of what we do is taking stuff that involves compliance, involves manual filings, and digitizing it into software. In the past, I said we use paperless cloud mobile. Now, obviously, AI is a key ingredient to that. But that's on the more internal, how we build side. On the
does it mean fewer engineers, just to put a fine line on it?
Yeah, doesn't mean fewer engineers. Given the scope of our ambition, it means like the amount of work we can do per Gusty grows dramatically. But probably in the grand scheme of things, it means less hiring than if AI didn't exist. But we're also pretty ambitious, so we're doing a lot of hiring anyways. But it's because we want to go solve more pain point for our customers.
And then on the sort of, do you feel the threat of customers building in-house versions of Gusto? Honestly, as a small business, that's sort of incoherent, right? Because it's like I'm not going to build an AI team as a 5-person startup. It would matter more to your enterprise level competitors, or how do you think about that challenge?
I mean, I don't think too many dentists want to go build software. That said, the reality is most of what we're doing for a dentist office or other small businesses, they haven't had access to in the past. They've been on their own. They've kind of had to do it manually or just not do it. And so for us, AI is enabling products to exist in a small business category that never existed. I think in mid-market enterprise, you're navigating more of this complexity of displacing jobs. But our due north is to grow the small business economy, right? And so we want to bring all of the things big companies have had historically to a small company. The only way we're going to do that, right, with a ratio that makes sense and with a scalability that makes sense is through leveraging technology.
I mean, if I had to distill the angst of a small business, it's like, I want to know that I'm in good standing and I don't know everything I'm supposed to do. And you guys are good in the product. Sometimes we're like, in New York, you're supposed to have sexual harassment training. Oh, okay, I'll pay you some money for that. Like, do you think AI is going to move us further along of just being able to give me an assessment, like, have you done everything you're supposed to do?
I call that the am I good question. And our customers, including you, do not want to be stressed or worrying about that. And it's our job to make sure you know fully if you're good or if there's something you need to do, what that exact thing is. And if we can do it for you, even better. But compliance maps to most of our products, right? Payroll involves a lot of compliance. Time tracking, PTO involves a lot of compliance, local, state, federal rules. And so AI fits in there in terms of ingesting. But at the end of the day, it's a compliance engine where accuracy needs to be to the Six Sigma. And that's always been true. Pre-AI, post-AI, that's been true since we started the company.
How much do you think your customers want to talk to the product? Like, do you see a move to text interfaces now that they're more capable, or you're like, we really need to flow whatever advances we have into actually the layout and design of the product?
So we always start with small businesses are busy, and it's way too hard to run and build a small business still. You can attest to that. And so how can we help them? We can help them by saving time. We can help them by taking 5 or 20 or 30 of the hats on their head off their head and doing it for them. Pre-AI, I would say we did that through really clean, elegant, easy to use workflows, primarily in a web app or a mobile app. And that's gotten us pretty far, right? That's what we're known for. Anyone can use Gusto with no training, no background in running a business. We have high NPS, high customer satisfaction. Our primary way of growing is word of mouth. With AI, it's not about the technology, the interface. That's what we get excited about. A conversational interface for a lot of use cases that Gusto does is a more intuitive, more accessible way to use Gusto.
You like it? You think it's promising?
We think it's very promising. Our interface for that is called Gus, which people should hopefully get.
I think it's somewhat like this, right?
And then, Penny the pig is our little mascot.
Oh, that's a different logo, okay.
But then, you're cracking Penny in half, but Penny's being sacrificed for the sake of your conference. But conversational interface, we don't think replaces web app, replaces mobile app. It's just a different surface area. But we are taking 14 years of functionality and giving Gus those superpowers. So we have customers today, thousands of customers using Gus to go create shift schedules, right? You want to go change who's working which day, take Sally off Friday, add 20 hours to Jim. We go do that all for you. You can just tell us that in a conversational interface, or you can go through and navigate, but that saves time for a small business, which they really appreciate.
I wanted to put one of the big themes of today to you. I mean, we saw Matt Harris give a presentation where he's making sort of a case that other investors have also made, that it's like there's now, thanks to language models, this opportunity to go after services businesses and sort of be the services business while being a tech company. Then later I had Jeff, the CEO of Digits, who's building accounting software. He's hired accountants to figure it out, and then software, and I think he was much more skeptical of that sort of you can be a services tech business. Where do you land? You've built a big business and you touch a lot of services. Like, are you bullish on that argument?
So I think we've had a kind of unique perspective to this because, like, the first product we launched, payroll, mostly, if you put aside like ADP Paychecks, which are a minority of the market, the majority of companies in America did payroll by hand or with a local payroll service bureau, which was basically a service manual localized business solution. So a lot of our journey has been taking, and ditto with health benefits, right? We are a broker. There are thousands of brokerage firms across the country that mostly do things by hand. So we take these complex, compliance-centric spaces, and we do what we do best, which is we digitize the heck out of it. Because if we're going to go do it for 400,000, 500,000, a million businesses, we cannot do it ourselves manually. So I don't think it's a 0, 100, 100, 0. Like, we have operations teams at Gusto, but we have over 400,000 companies today. Our Gusty to employee or ratio is over 1 to 1,000. That's only possible with technology.
Right. So you only want to do it if you can get to the point where it's fairly automated, not sort of for a long time keep the humans sort of trying to figure it out. Or how long do you spend sort of like, we'll do the human business to try and get to the point where we can automate it before saying, oh, I guess this is sort of, at least with the technology today, a perpetually human business?
Well, we were joking before, right? Like, if a company is scaling a service offering to large volumes and it's staying service-based, that's, to me, not a tech company. That's just a service business. Different multiple profile, different overhead costs, different operational complexity. We work backwards from what's best for the customer. For us to solve these pain points, it has to be technology. It has to be digital. It's just more accurate, right? We process several $100 billion a year of payroll taxes. If we were doing that manually, it would create human error potential. It would be too time-consuming. So we digitize because it's a better experience. But when we're subscale and trying out new products early on, I think it's totally fine to start more manual. It's about getting that feedback loop going, getting that learning going. But that's typically with less than 100 customers, right? If we're going to scale something, it better have good unit economics, good CAC, good gross margin, and we should have confidence that it can scale in a technology-enabled way. Otherwise, we're just going to build a huge operations team.
Somehow, in payroll, you're in like one of the wildest categories in Silicon Valley. You have, like Rippling and Deal, making huge accusations. Obviously, Rippling accusing Deal of spying on it. Have you done an internal check to see whether anyone's spying on you, and what do you make of sort of your high-profile, sort of same category businesses having so much drama?
We just focus on the customer.
But have you checked? Have you checked?
We have a very, very intense, super expensive and worth it security team.
Yeah.
But that's because we have hundreds of billions of dollars of our customer money sitting in our accounts, and we, do tax filings and tax payments, and we hold social security numbers and a whole bunch of very sensitive data that we take that job very seriously. So I can tell you with confidence, we do not believe anyone is spying on Gusto, but that's because that's what our customers should demand of us, that we're obsessed with protecting them in every possible way.
Do you see much competition? Or, you're very focused on small businesses, but I like that focus, and it gives you a great mandate and sort of a mission to motivate the company. On the other hand, most businesses want to keep their customers. It's much easier to keep the customer you have and grow with them than to find new ones. How do you think about sizing up with your customers?
So we're both in a very crowded space and a very fragmented space. And then yes, I think it's even very simplistic to say small business, medium-sized business, large business. These are huge cuts. And even within small business, you have different industry types, different geographies. So, hopefully everyone gets by now, we are obsessed with small business. We tend to see there less of the kind of frothy Silicon Valley tech kind of drama, frankly. But there's still legitimate companies that have lots of good product in market. Intuit is a company we highly respect and we compete with on multiple fronts. And there's a bunch of other companies. I used to say it was only Intuit, folks that have built really incredible franchises in small business. Shopify has a huge part of their company that's focused there. Square, Toast, HubSpot. So we feel like we're in good company. And I always encourage more entrepreneurs to tackle the small business category. The playbook still is generally for SaaS, just to move up market and move to bigger enterprise. And in the past, that just meant small business was left.
Do you want a 100-person business on Gusto?
We have a lot of 100-person business on Gusto. Most of them started on Gusto when they were one employee. So our focus is on small business. The vast majority will stay small. If some grow bigger, we're honored and happy to serve them. There's probably a point at some point where they graduate, but I like to remind folks, that's very rare, right? Like the number of companies that start at 1 or 2 and grow to 100 in our entire history is less than 0.1%.
We all, at the end of the day, live or die by the economy in some ways, and you have a great sort of vantage into a part of it. Is small business in America strong right now? What's your read of the mood among your customers?
Yeah, so we have economists on team. We publish a lot of content under Gustonomics, and a lot of folks are interested in the data. I'd say high level, 2 things we track a lot: new employer starts and then net hiring across our customer base. I'd say on the second, that is quite depressed.
New hiring,
net hiring, so just the propensity of our customers to add more to their team. That's been depressed for a few years now. On the new employer starts, that really with the pandemic got dramatically elevated and it's stayed fairly high. But yeah, it's more interesting to track. Given our size and scale, we feel like we're pretty diversified. It's more just net a bet on small business broadly, and it tends to be a pretty durable segment.
Can you talk about the embedded payroll part of your business and sort of, I mean, there is this other trend of, API-based businesses right now where it's like, okay, you're helping other people interact with your service, but not necessarily building out the product yourself. How do you think about that as a piece of Gusto's business?
Yeah, so we're always going to be driven by customer pull. So I'm very excited. Our direct business will keep growing past 500,000, 1 million businesses in the coming years. But a couple years ago, we noticed, and maybe some of you are a part of this trend, but vertical SaaS in particular, we got really excited about, where you have companies tackling a very specific industry. It could be very esoteric, but if you obsess over that one category, kind of build business in a box, you can actually create a viable tech company there. And every one of these folks kept coming to us and saying, we don't want to build payroll. No one really wants to build payroll because it tends to be quite difficult. But we really want to provide payroll to our customer, and we don't want to just keep routing customers to you. We want to have it be a native product experience. And so we have some great reference points in embedded, in fintech especially, like Stripe as a good example. And so that was where the genesis of embedded payroll came about. That's what we call Gusto Embedded Payroll. And we're really excited there. We have a number of partners. On the banking side, Chase Payroll is powered by Gusto. We recently announced US Bank will be rolling out payroll powered by Gusto. Xero is another good example on the account tech side. And so anyone that does want to launch or offer payroll natively within your product but doesn't want to build it from scratch, please let us know. We're eager and excited to partner with you. That whole business is more of an infrastructure business.
Yeah. My last question, we have a lot of founders here. You've been at this a while. Like, what's your main piece of advice to somebody starting a company today? Or what would you do differently if you were starting Gusto right now?
So I'll answer both. My main advice, I'm pretty consistent with, but I really believe it. It's imagine the 10,000th time you're describing what you're doing, will you be as excited as the first time? Because at that point, you can't fake it. It will show. And you have to have a deeper interest, passion, borderline obsession with the thing you're trying to fix, the problem you're trying to make better, because that's what gets you through all the ups and downs of company building. And in our case, I was with a team earlier today that's an incubation team launching a new product. And we went around the room, and it was an easy first question. I didn't even have to ask it. Everyone just shared their favorite small business. And so in our case, that obsession with small business comes through hopefully very clearly. It's a big part of our hiring filter. And as long as they're in pain, we feel like we have purpose and we have so much to do that we feel like we're really still early. There's a lot more ahead. And if I reflect on learnings from prior chapters, I had a prior startup where that wasn't the case. And that's where you can start a company or maybe join a company, feel like there's a miss there, and wonder what's off, right? And I would argue, go back to like, what is the purpose? What is the reason why you exist? And it should not be about you. It should be about your customer.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.